There is a habit almost every household in the developed world shares. You cook a meal, you store the leftovers, and the next day, you reheat them. It feels responsible, it feels healthy. It feels like exactly the kind of sensible, practical thing a person does when they are trying to take care of themselves and their family. But inside certain foods, the moment that second round of heat is applied, a series of precise chemical reactions begins. Reactions that produce compounds directly linked, not speculatively, not loosely, but directly linked by IARC, the FDA, and peer-reviewed biochemistry to DNA damage, cellular mutation, and cancer development. I am not here to alarm you about every leftover in your refrigerator. I am here to give you the specific, evidence-based truth that most health content deliberately glosses over, because the nuance is harder to explain than a dramatic headline. The real danger is not a single food. The real danger is a reheating pattern. And once you understand exactly what is happening at a molecular level in each of these 5 categories, you will never approach your microwave the same way again. We are counting down from 5 to 1. The higher we climb, the more serious the chemistry. Stay with me through all 5, because number 1 involves a compound that physically attaches to your DNA strands. That is not a metaphor. That is the mechanism. Number 5, browned potato products. This begins with a chemical process called the Maillard reaction. When carbohydrate-rich foods, potatoes, fries, hash browns, potato wedges, are cooked at high temperatures, asparagine, an amino acid naturally present in the potato, reacts with reducing sugars under heat. The result of this reaction is acrylamide. The FDA classifies acrylamide as a probable human carcinogen. The International Agency for Research on Cancer places it in Group 2A, meaning the evidence in animal studies is strong and the mechanistic data in human systems is consistent enough to warrant serious concern. Here is where reheating becomes the problem. The potato is already carrying acrylamide from the first cook, but when you reheat browned potato products, when you put yesterday's fries back in the oven or the air fryer to re-crisp them, the surface temperature climbs again. Browning deepens, and acrylamide levels climb higher than they were after the initial cook. Research published in peer-reviewed food science literature confirms this directly. Higher temperature, longer exposure, and darker browning all drive acrylamide levels upward. Every additional round of high-heat crisping compounds the load. The safe approach is straightforward. Warm leftover potato dishes gently, not to restore crunch, but simply to bring them to eating temperature. 1 reheat, low heat, no browning. Number 4, egg-rich and cholesterol-containing dishes. Cholesterol in its natural form is not your enemy. Your body produces it, your brain requires it, but cholesterol has a chemical vulnerability that most people are never told about. When egg-based dishes, quiches, frittatas, egg casseroles, are cooked, stored, and then reheated at high temperature, the cholesterol molecules in the egg yolk interact with heat and oxygen. They oxidize. And oxidized cholesterol is not the same compound as cholesterol. It becomes a class of molecules called cholesterol oxidation products, COPs, or oxysterols. Research published in scientific literature describes these oxysterols as pro-oxidant, cytotoxic, and potentially carcinogenic in experimental systems. Studies on eggs and egg-based products show that COP concentrations increase progressively with higher temperatures and longer heating times. When you cook an egg dish, store it, and then reheat it hard, particularly pan-frying or oven baking it until it browns again, each additional thermal exposure in the presence of oxygen can push oxysterol levels further upward. The evidence-based guidance is clear. Eat egg dishes fresh. If reheating is necessary, do it once, gently, and stop well before any browning occurs. Do not repeatedly cycle egg-based leftovers through the oven. Number 3, chicken and red meat. Leftovers. I want you to think of your body's proteins and fats as clean, functioning machinery. Now think of rust. When you cook chicken or red meat at high temperature, the process of cooking promotes 2 specific chemical changes. First, advanced glycation end products, AGAs, begin forming. These are compounds produced when proteins and fats are exposed to intense heat, and they are directly associated with increased oxidative stress, systemic inflammation, and, in mechanistic research, conditions that may promote carcinogenesis. Second, the fats within the muscle tissue begin to oxidize, producing lipid peroxidation byproducts. Now here is what repeated reheating does. A 2023 study examining chicken breasts subjected to repeated freeze-thaw cycles followed by cooking found a significant increase in markers of both protein and lipid oxidation, as well as elevated AGE compounds, including carboxymethyl lysine. A 2024 review on lipid peroxidation in muscle foods concluded that oxidation starts at the point of initial processing and continues, cumulatively, through every subsequent storage and heating event. Each time you take cooked chicken or meat and expose it to high dry heat again, grilling, frying, roasting, you add another layer of oxidized fats and AGEs on top of what was already there. The AICR notes that diets dominated by repeatedly grilled and roasted meats can more than double AGE intake compared with plant-based moist heat cooking patterns. Reheat meat once. Use gentle, moist methods. A covered pan with a small amount of liquid. A low oven with the dish covered. Never refry or regrill leftover meat if you can avoid it. Number 2. Processed meats. Reheated at high heat. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classifies processed meats, bacon, sausages, hot dogs, ham, deli meats, as Group 1 carcinogens for colorectal cancer. Group 1 means confirmed, not suspected. Confirmed causes of cancer in humans. The primary mechanism is the formation of nitrosamines and related N-nitroso compounds, driven by the nitrite and nitrate preservatives added to processed meats during manufacturing, combined with high-temperature cooking. Heterocyclic amines also form when muscle protein in processed meat is exposed to intense heat. Here is the reheating problem. Every additional round of high-heat cooking, every time you return bacon to a hot pan until it crisps, every time you grill leftover sausages until they char, you add another layer of nitrosamine and HCA formation on top of what was already generated during the initial cook. The DNA-damaging chemistry compounds with each exposure. The mechanistic link between nitrosamines and colorectal tumor development in animal models is well established. The human epidemiological data is consistent across decades of research. If you consume processed meats, and I understand that for many people removing them entirely is not realistic, then at minimum, reheat them once, at the lowest temperature that achieves food safety without browning or crisping. That single change meaningfully reduces your nitrosamine exposure from reheating. Number 1. PUF. Rich leftovers, fatty fish, and oily dishes. This is the category the evidence supports most precisely from a molecular cancer biology perspective. Polyunsaturated fats, found in fatty fish, dark poultry meat, and dishes cooked in high PUFA oils, are chemically unstable under heat and oxygen. When they oxidize, they generate compounds called lipid peroxidation products. The two most studied are melandialdehyde, abbreviated MDA, and 4-hydroxynonenal, abbreviated 4-HNE. These are not passive byproducts. A 2024 review on oxidation in muscle foods describes MDA and 4-HNE as directly DNA-reactive. They can bind to DNA strands and cause the kind of structural mutations that precede cancer development. A 2019 review published in PMC documents the established mechanistic links between lipid peroxidation products and oxidative DNA damage and chronic disease. The biochemistry here is not theoretical, and the critical point is this. Lipid oxidation is cumulative. It begins the moment a PUFA-rich food is cooked and continues through every storage period and every subsequent heating event. Each time you take a dish of salmon, an oily fish stew, or a mushroom dish cooked in high PUFA oil and expose it to heat again, the aldehydes accumulate further. The evidence-based rule for PUFA-rich foods is non-negotiable. Cook and eat in the same sitting. If storing is necessary, refrigerate immediately and reheat once, gently, and at the lowest temperature required. Never reheat oily fish or stews multiple times. Here is the truth that underpins all 5 of these categories. No single meal is going to cause cancer. That is not how carcinogenesis works. What causes cancer is cumulative exposure, the same harmful compounds, added to again and again, day after day, year after year, until the body's repair systems can no longer keep pace. Reheating itself is not the enemy. The pattern of repeated high heat exposure, the recrisping, the regrilling, the cycling of the same protein and fat through multiple rounds of intense heat, that is where the chemistry turns against you. You now have the 5 categories and the precise reason why each one matters. Make one change this week, then make another. Your cells are repairing themselves constantly. All they need from you is fewer obstacles and more time.